Have Sonia Booker with us today. It's actually her debut here on our platforms. So I'm super excited for today's class. Now, before we get into it, I do just have a couple of quick announcements for you guys, kind of let you know about who we are at Quest, how we can help you, and some of our upcoming events and promotions that we have going on right now as well. So for those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Haley Gant. I am one of our IRA specialists, and I work pretty closely with the rest of our marketing department to help to put on all of these events for you guys, bring in new speakers every single month, and continue to keep our education relevant to what's going on in real estate right now, and also to give you guys networking opportunities through some of these events as well. So, quick commercial about us. Who is Quest? We are a self-directed IRA custodian. We're based out of Houston, Texas, but we do have remote offices in both Dallas and Austin. They're a bit smaller, but they are fully functional offices with staff up there. And we do have clients all across the US. So we do operate in all 50 states. We have about 20,000 clients across the country. And under our administration, we hold about $2 billion in assets under our administration. Now, what kind of makes us different at Quest, though, is, we do self-directed IRAs. So all of that $2 billion in assets under management is actually all privately held assets that our clients choose to hold in their IRA accounts. So where at most traditional IRA custodians like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, your IRA is only invested into publicly traded assets, things like stocks, mutual funds, CDs, other sorts of publicly traded securities. Where at Quest, we think a little bit differently about the types of assets that you're actually able to hold in an IRA. And we are the experts when it comes to education of how to move your funds into a self-directed IRA, how to diversify your retirement portfolio. And the way that you can do all of this through different types of real estate investments that you actually have more knowledge and control over. So it's a really great way to diversify your IRA. You guys will see here that in the chat, I actually have Kurt Power. He's one of our other IRA specialists on our team. And where I more so focus in on the marketing and the business development, Kurt is actually one of our IRA specialists who helps our clients get started. So if you guys have questions about opening an IRA, how it works, your different investment options, be sure to reach out to him or reach out to us through the contact information that I'll have at the end of these slides here. And we're always happy to help answer questions for you guys. Now, really quick, I do have to give a disclaimer. At Quest, we give a lot of education, but what we don't do is give tax, legal, or investment advice. It's really important that as you are getting into this world of self-directing your retirement account, that you understand your responsibilities as the client and that you do the proper due diligence before you enter into any investment. So just be aware to make sure that you are working with professionals, attorneys, title companies, CPAs. You want to make sure that you have other people on your power team that are just as focused in real estate as you are. And just be aware that at Quest, we can't tell you if it's a good or bad deal, but we can provide a lot of education. And we have a lot of great resources where we can maybe kind of help to point you in the right direction. Now, we offer a lot of free education. This class, as well as all of our other classes that we host here at Quest, are available for replay, both on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. But I would definitely recommend for you guys to go check out our YouTube channel. Kurt is putting links for that in the chat here. And we've got a lot of great resources there for you on our YouTube, all of our weekly classes, a lot of other shorter educational videos. We're posting those every single week. And it's been a really big, fun project to grow that YouTube channel this year. So we've got a lot of great information for you there. Now, the education definitely doesn't end there. We have a lot of educational resources on our website at questtrust.com, but we also host these weekly webinars. We host self-directed IRA Saturday webinars every single week. And we also have my personal favorite, which is our virtual networking happy hours that we host twice a month. They are on the first and third Wednesday of every month. I actually personally host them myself, so they're a lot of fun. You get to meet about 50 other investors from all across the US, pretty much at every happy hour in under 2 hours. So it's a lot of fun. It's great for networking and fostering these relationships, as we're kind of getting back out there into the world and slowly getting back to those in-person events. These virtual networking happy hours are still really great to connect with investors from all across the US. Now, I have this slide in here because I do want to remind you guys that the tax filing deadline is coming up. It is not this week. That has changed this year. The tax filing deadline has been extended to May 17th. So you guys do still have about one more month to get in any 2020 contributions to your IRA account. Now, a really kind of common argument or pushback that we get here is, well, these contributions aren't that large. Why would I put in $6,000 each year if that's not enough to buy a piece of real estate? And first, my answer to that is that's definitely enough to invest with. We see it done all the time. And it's all about planting the seeds today so that money can start being invested, it can start growing and earning that compounding interest. And just to kind of put this into like real world numbers for you guys, if you contribute $6,000 to an IRA from age 25 to age 70, every single year, you just put in your $6,000. If that account only grows by 5%, which as we're self-directing our IRAs, we definitely have the potential to earn much higher returns than that. If your IRA only grows by 5%, by the time you hit 70 years old, you'll actually have $1 million in that IRA. And if it's a Roth IRA, all of that is completely tax-free. So you have one more month to get in those 2020 contributions. Reach out to Kurt or one of our other IRA specialists. If you have questions about that, we'll send you the instructions. We'll help you get started and kind of figure out which types of accounts you might be looking to make contributions to. But don't wait until the last minute because our phone lines get very, very busy as we get closer and closer to that deadline. Now, if that's not enough of an incentive for you guys, we do have an account opening promotion going on for this entire month. For any new IRA that you open at Quest before the end of April, you'll actually get a $125 credit towards your account, and that'll actually cover your first transaction fee. So your first deal that you do with your IRA will be on us, and that promotion goes from now through the end of this month. Now, most importantly, guys, I am super excited. Coming up actually in just a few days, this weekend, we have QuestCon Live Private Lending Edition. This is a full 2-day online self-directed IRA conference. We have just over 20 different guest speakers joining us for all 2 days, Friday and Saturday. And tickets are on sale right now. This is one of the few paid events that we host because there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to wrangle all of these 20 different guest speakers, get the schedules worked out, make sure everyone's joining on time. But we make it well worth the price of the cost of the ticket to attend. On this next slide here, I actually have the full agenda for all 2 days. You can see we have several panel presentations. Almost all of the presentations are panels, so you get to hear from a lot of different experts and kind of hear their differing opinions over the course of this 2 days. And then we have several sponsors joining us for this event as well. So big shout out to all of our sponsors that are helping to make this event possible. And be sure to join us. Kurt is actually sending my personal discount link for you guys there in the chat. If y'all use the discount code Haley30, or if you just use the link that he's sending, it'll automatically apply that discount for you. You'll get 30% off of your ticket price. And you can upgrade your ticket to include the recording as well. That way you have access to the presentations after the event ends. And this is the list of our speakers. We have Eddie and Martha Speed. We have John Heyer, Jeff Watson, Brad Sumrock, Eddie Gant, this crazy investor from Houston, also happens to be my dad. So big shout out to him. He always gives a great presentation, but be sure to join us for QuestCon. We put a lot of effort into hosting this event. QuestCon will actually have its own virtual networking happy hour Thursday night for all of the attendees. And we will also have a Slack channel set up throughout the weekend as well. So you can not only watch the presentations, but you can kind of post on a little forum type of, Facebook board type of thing where you can post your information, network with other attendees. So even though it's not in person, you can actually still network and meet other people and get your information out there as well. So if you have questions, reach out to us. We are very easy to get a hold of. If you're interested in setting up a free consultation, you can scan this QR code. In today's world, I don't know about you guys, but I love QR codes. They make things so easy. But we really pride ourselves on being very easy to get a hold of. You can chat live with an IRA specialist right there through our website. You can give us a call or send us an email to our IRA specialist at questtrust.com. This actually goes to our entire department. So if you want a really quick answer, head on over to the website chat or shoot us an email and we'll answer all of your questions for you. And we definitely look forward to getting back out there a little bit later this year. That way we can meet all of you guys in person if it's been a while. But without further ado, I would love to go ahead and bring on Miss Sonia Booker. Sonia has been in the real estate industry for over 20 years. She's an author, she's a speaker, she's got a lot of great information, and she's also very energetic. So Sonia, I'm super excited to have you here today, and I'm excited to see your presentation for myself. If you guys have questions, put them in the Q&A box. I'll come back on at the end and we will get all of them answered for you guys. Sonia, great to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited about being here. And I just love what you guys are doing and making self-directed IRA investing fun, and I think that that's the real key. And I'm going to be checking out QuestCon. Yeah, look at that lineup. Some of my favorites are on there. So thank you for having me. I have a quick presentation that I want to share. And just to give you a little bit background about me, as Haley said, I've been investing almost 20 years now. It's kind of daunting or hard to believe that it's been that period of time. But I have thoroughly enjoyed it, as you can imagine. And it's had its ups and downs and everything in between. But I always say I wouldn't trade it. I've learned so much. I love to share information. The thing that has really govern my success is that when I figure something out, I really want to share it. I have a high, propensity to I gotta tell everybody the right way to do that, or the mistakes that I made, or just to make that path a little straighter for investors. You guys hold a lot of power in your self-directed IRA. Just the idea that you are on this call, that you're teamed up with Quest to build your financial future is just admirable in itself, because you understand the power that you have. And so with that power, what helps you to activate it is the information. And so that's what I hope to share with you today, a little information. And I am going to pull up my screen and we'll get started. Let's see here. So when I was thinking about, what I wanted to share, it was this whole idea of making sure that we're all aware that we will have this new kind of landscape, that we'll have a new real estate market for investors as we all, rear our heads out of COVID and everything that's been going on. I feel like it's a little delay. Is that bothering anybody? Let's see, I might put on a different Wi-Fi or something. Is it a little lag or is it okay?
I think it looks good.
Okay. All
it's
right,
still
perfect.
On your first slide. It hasn't advanced yet, but
okay.
I think it looks good.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Haley. And so I really wanted to, as we started talking about these next normals and everything, we're like, what's the next normal? What's the next normal for this? There is a next normal for real estate, for the real estate market. And I think it's important that we have conversations about it so that as we hit the market running, we're running in the right direction and we're understanding that everything about it is not going to work the same. And I think that that's really important and key. And it's not bad, it's not good, it's just evolving. And that's, how every industry and everything is doing, that we should expect some of that evolution in the real estate world as well. And so as I think about that, I think about this kind of new market brings new opportunities. So much has changed, yet so much remains the same. The good part is real estate is real estate. You're always going to buy low, sell high, buy low, want appreciation, look at markets, look at trends, look at what's happening. So that part is just real estate. That's the fundamental benefit and functionality of why you invest in real estate. But when you take into account, what does a new market look like? How are things going to work? What makes a good deal in this market? As opposed to 5 years ago or even a year ago, we've in that type of volatility of how the market has really changed. And so you watch the news, hopefully not too much about politics or COVID, but you're seeing the housing news, and you're seeing that there's a all-time high pricing, low inventory, and all of that. We're going, what the heck is going on, with that? But when you think about it, and you think about the idea that people are, wanting to work from home, wanting their space a little bit more comfortable, wanting to carve out, wanting to make those moves to other cities that they've been thinking about, but now it makes a whole lot of sense. So you have like all of this stuff going on, but you have a lot of people that if they don't have to sell, if they don't have to move, they're really not moving. And so that's why there's no, the inventory is so tight. And so as we start to progress into the summer, the spring and the summer, and we see a lot of the moratoriums and different things like that that are going to start to fall off, we're going to be looking at not a reverse of that happening, but we're going to be looking at inventory coming up. And a lot of that inventory is going to be forced inventory. So when you think about the idea that there's still millions of people that are behind on their mortgage, in foreclosure, a lot of them were in pre-foreclosure, and they were in foreclosure before, COVID or the virus even started. And so a lot of what you're seeing is like some big Band-Aids happening. And it's only going to be so long that you can keep those Band-Aids, we're keeping everything under wraps before it all falls apart. And so we want to be in position to really take advantage of when it falls apart, but understanding like that there are some people that are going to be really broken. It's going to be a lot of stuff that we haven't seen ever, in a marketplace like this in our time, at least. And so this is an important time to be asking yourself, why do you want to invest in real estate now? That operative word is now, because it's always these changes in terms of what's going on with your finances, what's going on with your age, with the amount of time you have. All of those things play a role into how you invest in anything, and especially in real estate. In real estate, you need like 3 key things. You need time, you need money, and you need credit if that's, something that you're going to be using to leverage. And so at any point, you're looking at and taking inventory of what are those things do I have? What are those things I need to improve upon? What are those things I'm willing to use? But this is a big question. And the question, your answer may look a lot different than it did last year. So ask yourself that question, why do I want to invest in real estate now? What am I looking to gain, or what do I think there is for me to gain in this market, in this particular time that we're in? And I want to challenge you today really to start thinking about become a socially conscious real estate investor. It's so interesting that we have looked at social media, we have all of these ways that we are more social, but we really haven't thought about being more socially conscious in real estate. And again, I don't want, this is not a scary presentation like the world is coming to the end. This is a presentation that I hope will help to shape your thought process around people in real estate and the needs that will be there, that will be very prevalent, that we haven't really seen before. And so it's just to make you aware that, I need to look at opportunity a little different. So what do I mean about socially conscious real estate investor? I recently did an article for a South Atlanta magazine, and they were interviewing me, and I had the story that come up in my, in my mind that I kind of buried. And what I realized after that interview, when they wrote the article and sent it to me, that I was always kind of a social real estate investor. So I told them a story about how I, was a young real estate investor starting out, and I was encountering a lot of people, elderly people who were losing their homes. I was very perplexed by the whole thing. I was very sad. I remember going to a lady's door and talking with her, and she was behind on her mortgage, behind on her taxes. It was just like a really bad situation. And I remember, as I talked to her, she was in complete denial about the idea that she had to leave her home of 40 years. It was just, the things that were happening around her, the housing market that was building up right, before her eyes. She was found herself in a position where she was being forced out. Well, I thought this is really sad. And I turned around, went to my car, and I thought, I don't want to have anything to do with this. This is just not a way to treat people, right? And I went and I sat in my car, and I thought about it, and I called one of my mentors, and in all of his wisdom, he told me, well, Sonia, here's the thing. She was losing the house before you got there. And the reality is somebody's going to buy it, and it was like, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. And so I got out of the car, went back up to the door, and I said, maybe I can help you. Have you thought about moving? Have you thought about what your life looked like after, this house or in retirement? So I just started having these conversations as if she was my grandmother or my mom, and this was happening to one of them. And I left that conversation, on her porch with the idea that, she's like, this house is really too big for me. I would really love to move to South Carolina and be with my sister. And so then I focused my conversation on how do I get her to South Carolina? And the conversation became more South Carolina driven and more her driven of how do I help her as a person be well in this transition. And so as I focused on that, we signed the contract for her to sell the property to me, but that became the back burner part. That was like, okay, this is a given. I have a contract. I've saved the house from foreclosure. Let me get her to where she needs to be, and I'll get the property. Just, that'll happen. And so as I started doing this and really showing up, just really finding out what was it about the person, what was their pain point, what did they need, what did they desire. It became that everybody started telling all the elderly people in the neighborhoods to call me, call that girl Sonia, she'll help you. And I was just known for doing that, and I took it very to heart that I was really serving in a way that whether government or tax laws and all these different things, and some have changed now, that they have stopped tax hikes and for elderly and things like that, because they were just being pushed out because they couldn't no longer afford to pay taxes on a house. So all of those things like played a role. And as I was doing the interview, I was like, wow, I didn't really know, I didn't really think about it that way. And so that's how I want you to kind of come out of this thinking. What is the impact on people, and how can you help to mitigate that? And so here are these 5 questions that, I want you to kind of take this inventory, of yourself as you sit in the chair, over this weekend or this week, as you just start thinking about, one, how do why do you want to invest? So you think about that. And then here are just 5 questions that I feel go along with that thought process. And so, what type of investor are you? I hear so many people like, I'm an investor, but there are at least 15 ways that I could think of off the top of my head that you could be an investor. and not and have a whole different risk factor involved in your investment, whether it's passive, whether it's short term. And so really kind of understanding what type of investor are you? And it might be what kind of investor are you now in this particular season? And so short term, something like people who are looking to do wholesale, contract assignments, bird dog, short term investing could even be fix and flips. Having that tolerance and that skill set or the team to be able to pull those off is really important. And so whether you're doing it directly or investing in short-term projects, it's something that you really do have to have an appetite for, because whether you're investing in it or doing it directly, you have to understand what are the risks associated with short-term investing. I'm investing for 6 months or 9 months or under a year, and I'm thinking this is what's going to happen. And what if that doesn't happen? What does that look like? What is this investor? What is your plan A? What is your plan B? And those are really important to have, because as low as interest rates are, and in the market, the thing about it, when you invest in real estate, you can control about 85% of calculated risk and understanding what's going on. But that other 10, 15, 20% even, which is not bad, you can't control. And so you control the things you can control, like doing your numbers, looking at your deals. But something like interest rate hikes or market crashes or a virus, coming out, those are things you could never know, never predict, never really, understand. But with real estate, you do have cycles. That's the beautiful part about it, that we have been able to study cycles. But I do want you to understand that every recession in real estate, or every boom or bust, or however that turn happens, it's different. Like, people are jumping into real estate thinking like, oh, 2008, 2007, it's going to be like this kind of, free for all, kind of market. It's like, no, this new market recovery is going to look totally different. It's going to look like something we haven't even seen, but at the same time, it's going to come with a lot of opportunities as well. So you can be a short-term investor, you can be a long-term investor. Long-term investor, whether you're doing multifamily or passive investing, or looking to gain rental income, or you could be that combination. And it's okay to go in and out, because it might be the deal that you're looking to do. So sometimes it's short-term things that you do, and you put your money out, or you put your time out from a short-term perspective, and then you get to a point where you're like, I really want the long-term. I really want to plan for the future of this asset. And I did a lot of that in my career, where everything was about short term. It was about having a plan of, I'm going to do wholesaling until I can get to a certain point. Then I'm going to go into doing some fix and flips. And, fix and flips were never really my thing. They were always good cash flow, good ways to get, bigger chunks of cash. But I also started doing my fix and flips, and then I would do refinances to pull my cash back out, or at least majority of it, and then keep the asset. Because at some point, when you're really get to be asset driven, and you realize I'm fixing and flipping everything, I'm flipping all of my assets. And so whether you're doing that, and then you start to say, okay, now I have a certain amount of cash built up, that I've taken my egg and I've, grown it through short-term deals. Now I want to, be more invested in a apartment complex, or, a commercial building, or a strip mall, or something like that, where I can get in regular revenues. And so you always are wanting to look at deals and look at your tolerance and look at kind of where does that fall. And if you know that you want to be a short-term investor, then you don't want to sign up for a 3-year deal or 5-year deal. And so being clear about those things really help you to make decisions really quick and then go to the next. Okay, here's question 2. What is your knowledge base for the type of investor that you are or looking to become? And so maybe you had this appetite and you did a lot of fix and flips. So you understand that. But now you're going into more of your long-term investing and you're like, oh, wow, I don't understand apartment buildings or commercial real estate. So you have to get some information. You got to get your information, your knowledge base for where you're going. So that you start learning about passive investing. And you be very, very selfish when it comes to your time and your money and your investments, because you'll develop what I call an investment criteria. And in that investment criteria, it's going to say things like, I only invest in, the southeastern region. I'm looking for a certain, 25%, 30% minimum return on investment. And I'm looking for brick, homes or whatever that criteria that you establish, that's going to help you go through analyzing, does this fit? Because a lot of times you have to get through a lot of deals to come up with what is the good deal for me. And you have to be okay with understanding that it might be a good deal, but it's not a good deal for me. And so understand for where you're headed, and this is a great time to do it. And Quest does an amazing job of bringing in resources and information to be able to get you that knowledge to say, maybe I want to start looking at multifamily. Obviously, they're going up like crazy, and we're going to have even more need for, housing as people lose homes. We're going to just need that. And so it might be certain reasons that you want to look at assisted livings or I've just been looking at real estate and cannabis and how, doing real estate for some of the land that we have, how we can lease it for agriculture, so all of these things, it kind of beckons based on industry and where we are and looking at what's really moving. So I had to get a high knowledge base to start exploring land and cannabis. It's like it was foreign. It's been foreign. I was like, where have I been in life? And then you have to ask yourself, number 3, what are you willing to do? A lot of times we think we just want to make money, but you're not really willing to do anything to make money. You're like still wanting to do things that make sense for you, that you are interested in doing. And so, and being very upfront with what are you willing to do and asking yourself that question, it will give you that answer of, I'm not willing to spend my weekends out looking for property. I'm not willing to put up X amount of dollars for investments. It just starts to really develop your mind of what you're willing to do. And it's okay, to say that. What am I willing to do to invest? And then equally important, what am I not willing to do? That's just as important of, I'm not willing to, take up this time, or I'm not willing to put up $20,000. I'm not willing to put up $100,000. I'm not willing to use my credit. I'm not willing to, whatever those things are, being very concrete in that and understanding that that's your, criteria. That's your good, bad, and ugly, but those are your measures. And so be very clear about them. I'm not willing to do that. Number 5, what are some ways that you can serve this new marketplace? I think that is a question that I've been asking myself, and I've been coming up with, a few things. But as I've been, just posing that question to other investors, the thing that has come about is we talk about how areas have really changed and transitioned, and we look back sometime and we think, wow, that area looks nothing like it used to look, or people who want to live there can no longer afford to live there. And as real estate investors or developers, that's not necessarily something that's usually on our mind. What's on our mind is, making money. I'm always very, very clear. And even, with the title of this, presentation, when I send it over, it's like, how can I make a difference and make a profit? Because what I want you to understand is, like, being a capitalist, is not a bad thing. Understanding markets and wanting to make a profit and be willing to take risk and investments and invest in your money, it is for you to be successful. It is for you to be profitable. And so nobody is expecting you to leave profit or leave things on the table. But what I do want you to walk away with from this presentation is, how can I make a profit and make a difference? How can I approach something in a way that I really haven't thought about approaching it, and come out with the same outcome, or maybe even a better outcome of, I was able to use this quadruplex for short-term housing, that I was able to get, the state to pay for it for transitional housing, as opposed to short-term, doing something short-term with it. Or maybe I was expecting or planning to do Airbnb, but now I want to look at, nursing. I want to look at maybe assisted or elderly might be a better use of that property. And so those are some of the things that you can look at and say, where is there a need? Where is there a need? And then how can I use what's in my hands, my real estate, to help fill that void? And so those are your 5 questions that I want you to really, as you're approaching this and thinking about this marketplace. We've already seen, the amount of mental illness and gun violence and all of the things that are part of, this next, kind of wave that we're in. And it's not going to be any different than the amount of loss that we're going to see in the real estate market. And so as an investor, and as someone that's been socially conscious investor, it's just a matter of, like, sounding a soft alarm so that we're, start to prepare. We start to prepare for that. We must adjust our thought process when it comes to people and property. I think that that's the biggest thing. And with real estate, we really don't. And when I say that with my 20 years, we really haven't so much thought about what's behind the building, who lives there, how do we impact family structure with some of our investment decisions. And it's not to say it's not a good investment and you should not do it. It's just to say, yeah, how do I serve that? How do I serve that community? And still make money? That's all it is. It's just an adjusted thought process when it comes to, people and property and how we engage with that. And so in terms of, like, the market success and timing, the ones who will be successful in this new marketplace are the ones who are willing to rebuild and reimagine. It's like the ones that are willing to roll up their sleeve and say, how can I serve you? How can I help you through something? And, and understanding I'm going to win in a lot of ways, in doing that. And so it's not like to come out and think, yeah, I'm just going to, buy all this property and, do all this, great stuff. It's about really understanding who's behind the property and really approaching it in a way that you can structure deals, with people that could really help to serve both ways, them and you. And so the marketplace, the ones who are willing to rebuild and reimagine are going to be the ones who are successful in this new marketplace. So there's tons of resources on my website at soniabooker.com. I think about even, some of the things that we just talked about in terms of some blogs that I've written, information that I provide there. I'm also the author of a book, Real Estate and Wealth, Investing in the American Dream. It's really a step-by-step guide, and people have used it as just a handbook to be able to guide them through different investment transactions. Like, I got to do this, then I do this, and then I do that. And it's kind of really interesting when I see people or sign books and how I refer to the book, from time to time, and the amount of notes and stuff that you take, because the thing about it, like I'm saying, you don't really reshape the real estate market. You reshape how you engage in the real estate market with the people that are behind the marketplace. And then, I just want to leave you with this idea of happy wealth building. I believe that wealth building should be it should be fun. I know it sounds, and it can only be fun when you have when you can laugh about it, obviously. And I think about several of the mistakes that I've made as an investor. And one in particular, I mean, there's so many that stands out that I had to just chalk up to, like, it's part of my growth, it's part of my evolution. And even, the one that always comes to my mind is just when I was doing a renovation, and I was, I think this was my second one, and I thought I had mastered, how to renovate. And I remember just bleeding cash. It was just ugly. It was awful. And it was just like, the more I could put into it, the more I needed. And the more I didn't have, and the more I had to find. But I remember thinking, like, if I can just finish it, that was the driver. If I could just finish it, if I could just finish it, it'd be okay, right? And I just remember just being in the bed, like, 7 a.m., like, oh no, the contractors are gonna call, they're gonna need this stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to get up. No. And it was just such a just such a process for me. And I remember thinking, and praying and pleading, if you get me out of this, I will never, ever, ever touch real estate again. And I, got out of it. I, had a little bit better than a break even, but I was just like, if I could just break even, like, I'm fine. Had a little bit better than a break even, but as much as I tried to retire and hang my shingle as to, I will not do anymore, I will not touch another deal, I realized that wasn't the goal of the lesson. The goal of the lesson was for me to take something out of it. And that particular chapter was inspired in my book about how I even reformed and reshaped how I did my renovations. I would take renovations and I would always add that, the contingency, but always that the worst case. And if my numbers would work with worst case, then I was like, okay, I'm good. And so that then, as things that I thought I might have to do, I didn't have to do, everything started getting added back to the bottom line. So as I added back to the bottom line, it was just like, yes. It was more watching my profit that I thought I would make with everything that I had to do in my contingency. And that, had to check out to be a certain number. But let's say if that was $20,000, then I'm like, okay, I can do this deal. And so as I'm going through the process and realizing, oh, I don't have to change the hot water tank. I don't have to buy a new unit. I can use the existing floors and refinish them. Like all these things that I'm thinking I'm going to have to do, I'm adding back to my $20,000. And so now, I'm making $30,000 profit. And that's always better than coming up with $10,000 more, or being on the other end of, I don't have that difference because I didn't go into it thinking that I would need that. And so it has become a happy, wealth building for me, over the years. And just the idea that I get to control my destiny in terms of, my real estate purchases and investments. because of the knowledge base that I have. And that makes me really happy. And it also makes me really want to share. So getting calls from like Quest and being able to share on platforms like this is just really important. So I would love for you to, connect and reach out to me. And that's just at soniabooker.com or sonia@soniabooker.com. We do have, all kinds of assets or deals and things that you're looking to invest in. If I can't, however I can help, you in any way, I would be more than willing to do that. So that is my presentation for today. And I do believe we'll be able to do some Q&A.
Yes, awesome. Sonia, it's so great to see you present. I love the energy and I love how, a lot of us in our experiences have been able to really capture some great knowledge and information over the years, and being able to pass that on and share that with others, I think is really important, and I can tell that you do too. So let's get into a few questions. I have a few here. You mentioned, as someone's getting into real estate, kind of deciding if you want to invest into shorter term investments versus longer term investments. I was curious, which one do you prefer? And has that maybe like changed or evolved over the years?
It has totally changed and evolved. That's a better word. Because I think what's really important is that you start somewhere. And what I did, like my own personal self, like when I first started, I was buying everything. I was like, I'm an investor. I just sold one of my businesses, an Allstate insurance agency. So I was putting, all of those funds into my real estate career. So, people will call me and I'm buying, it was a good deal, I'm buying it. And I looked around, I had like 10 properties and I'm like, okay, now I'm getting mortgage bills. I don't have a plan for that property. That was going to be rental, but I really hadn't had time to fix that one up. I haven't had, and it really, arrested me. And it made me say, I don't care what it is, you have to have a plan and a criteria. And even if it's a good deal, it might not fit. And so I started setting these parameters for myself. I wanted to get to $100,000 and doing wholesale. So I said, I'm just doing wholesaling. I want to get to $100,000 because I want to get to the $100,000 so I can do my short-term fix and flips. So then I set a goal of where I wanted to get to with that, because my goal was to get to apartments, to get to multifamily. So I knew where I was headed. And so at each stage, so I didn't get stuck. It was just like, when I hit this mark, I'm using this to get to here. I'm using this to get to that. And I think that that's important, because if not, you kind of look around and you're like, oh, I'm still a wholesaler. And it's like, is that the plan, to stay a wholesaler the whole time? And it may be, but be conscious of that.
Definitely. And it kind of leads me into my next question. But, before I get into that, just kind of to touch on what you just said, I think it's really important, baby steps at a time, set short-term goals for yourself and then set long-term goals for yourself. But the long-term goals can never come to fruition if your short-term goals aren't lined up to kind of get yourself there. So kind of leads me into another question that I had. You've talked a lot about, your mindset and kind of getting your mind in the game to, kind of almost, have that clear focus of where you want to go. How would you suggest that people stay accountable with their mindset? How do they stay accountable to actually get themselves from point A to point B?
I believe it's all about having a plan. I mean, you're in it to, you're in it. You're in the game at some level of even just listening to information. The thing about, there is a information paralysis. There is such thing as too much information, because at that point, it just paralyzes you. You do nothing. So what I say is, you want to get a lot of information. You have to shape it. So you want to take in a lot of information, and then you're going to have to decide, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to do passive investing. So then now I want to start taking in more information just around passive investing. Because if you take in just investing information, it's so vast. And so you do have to eventually, hone in, because if not, you're going to get information overload and you'll just be taking a bunch of seminars and you'll never invest. And I see that tons of times.
Exactly. It's so true. There's so much education out there. Sometimes you really need to kind of narrow your mindset of what type of education you're going after and who's providing that education. That way, you know, you not only have the information like from a textbook, but you also have the person that you can refer to that's done those deals before too.
I think that that's important. I think you do have to, and with me, when I started investing, I really didn't see myself. I didn't see myself in women, and I didn't see myself in Black women or Black, like from a standpoint of investing. I saw tons of real estate agents and brokers, but I didn't see people doing real estate investing. Like, no, I'm here, I'm going to write the check, I'm going to do the deal, you know. And so it was important that when I, figured out things, I wanted to share them. And luckily, as much as we always love, women empowerment and women, I have had the best men mentors. Luckily, I've always been in fields of insurance or real estate, very male dominated. And once they see that you're a real contender, like you're not just showing up and that you're gonna put on your boots, you're gonna go under the crawl space, you're gonna do the work, they really do take you in, and you earn your stripes that way. And so I think it's important, and I feel like I'm important to just bringing a different voice to the investment space. And so that's what I've always tried to do, because you do have to lock in at some point, because there's a big difference between women and men investing. And I've seen it. It's just like, men are like, okay, we're doing a deal. Women are like, we're doing a deal. And we just need a lot more information. And because so much in our minds, whether it's true or not, so much rides on our decision making and on our, and so we take that like a whole different way. And the only thing that overcomes it is information. And like you say, there's a lot of information. You do have to make sure you're getting good information, because there's an information overload on the internet right now.
Oh, yes, definitely. I love all of those points you just made there. I have just one or two more questions for you. Obviously, this past year has been a little crazy. We haven't really seen people in person as much as we're normally used to. But, obviously, with you trying to go out there and, pass along this education to other investors, what have you been doing to keep up with your network in this past year? What have you found that's been working for you? And are you going to kind of continue to do those things as we're continuing to slowly get back into the real world moving into this year?
Yeah, I think that I have developed I'm not in Zoom overload, thankfully. I have really been able to embrace connecting with my team, my network more. I have been able to meet and converse with people all over the world that I was so accustomed to. Either I'm going to fly somewhere to speak, or I'm going to have something in Atlanta. And it was always like all these people, like, I wish I could come to, and I did a whole series of Prospering in a Pandemic, and we were doing like weekly, and it became just the best, how to prosper in a pandemic. And I would have never stopped and did that had my schedule been my schedule. And so I'm going to definitely keep a large part of the connectivity, because it's just been really good to connect with people from all over that I just would not have been that focused on. So
Prospering in a Pandemic. What a great marketable name right there. I love that.
And the stories and the things that came out and what people were doing, it was just like amazing. So you see, like, you see the bad part of the business closing and the, all the stuff that we see, the bad, but it was actually, a lot of good going on, and a lot of, iron sharpening, a lot of money stacking, a lot of saving to, because you weren't eating out and doing a whole lot of stuff.
No traveling. Yeah.
So, a lot of people are, have, been keeping their powder dry, as we call it, for being able to wait and pounce on, opportunities. So all of that's been really good.
Nice. That's awesome. So just one more question for you before we sign off for the day. If you had any last kind of piece of advice or message you would like to pass on to our audience members today, what kind of last piece of advice would you like to offer just to kind of wrap it up today?
Oh gosh. So I would have to say be patient with yourself. We're kind of in this microwave society. And everybody now has associated things like that. Like, oh, she started investing and she made, a bunch of money and it's like, no, I've been like at this. And I think we really we really have to look at the work. We really gotta, but having good mentors, getting good education, that is going to speed up, your success model, because it's like, why would I want somebody to make a mistake that I didn't make, but don't make my mistake when I can tell you like how not to make my mistake. And so be patient with yourself, because it does seem like it's daunting, and you're like, it's not happening. And it will, and it does. You have to stay at it, but you do have to be at some point willing to put all five of your toes in and not the big toe. And and I see that so much. And so you don't dive in, but you do have to take those steps and get started. And I think that that's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree with that. I think that's so true. And especially because, as we go out there, we see so many real estate investors that have been really successful. They've been in the business for 20 years, but they did not start out with that success. It took several years to build up to that, probably a lot of lessons along the way as well. And, I kind of keep that in mind in my own personal investments, because my parents have been investing almost my entire life, but I'm kind of new into it. You got to start out small, baby steps, and just keep in mind that what you're doing today is pushing you in the direction that you want to go. I think that's so important.
It's pushing, and and sometimes it doesn't seem like it, and all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh, okay, I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I see Kurt was putting my contact information. I'll put a phone number as well, Kurt, and I see you put my website and email, and it's just let's see, 404-478-7229.
Awesome. So that phone number was.
Yeah, you did it. You caught it.
I'm not the best at multitasking, but I can do it sometimes.
Yes,
Awesome, guys.
so definitely, reach out. It's been great sharing.
Yes. Awesome. Sonia. Well, I am so excited to bring you back for more of our events. I can't wait to hear about, your other investments that you've done, things you've learned along the way, and as much education that you have in your brain that you want to offer. I am so excited to bring it out to our platforms this year. So guys, be sure to check out Sonia's website. It has a ton of great information, soniabooker.com. And that email was sonia@soniabooker.com. So Sonia, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a joy. We did have a really nice comment from one of our attendees. She said, Sonia, your story speaks to me as a new investor. I just began revising my business plan this weekend. Thank you for helping to further refine my mission.
Oh, thank you. That's like joy. And we'll be launching a site for people to share how they are socially, investing in real estate and sharing those stories and stuff. So definitely keep me posted. That's awesome. Thank you.
That's awesome. Awesome, Sonia. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, guys. If you want to rewatch this class as well as all of our other classes, be sure to check out our YouTube channel and be sure to join us for QuestCon Live this Friday and Saturday. I'm so excited for that event. If y'all have questions, let us know, and we'll see you in the next class this Thursday.
All right. See you later.
Thanks, Sonia. Bye.
Bye.